Welcome everyone back to weekly weather updates, and this evening we'll be having a look at the latest GFS, GEM, ECMWF and GFS ensembles. It is looking like we're going to be going quite a bit colder over the next few days as some colder air does sink down from the north. In the longer term though, it does look like generally we will be being around average temperature-wise, as it doesn't look like at this stage we'll be seeing any real late winteriness in March. Do remember, if you enjoy my videos, make sure you do like and subscribe, as it does really help me out. But currently we're having a look at the GFS, and the area of high pressure that we've had over the last few days is now moving northwards towards Greenland. Now, it's not going to be becoming a massive Greenland block, but it is temporarily going to be over sort of Greenland, Iceland, and it's going to bring down northerly airflows. And you can see over the UK, even though we are generally under higher pressure, you can see there is a small area of vorticity over southern parts of the United Kingdom. And this is a similar sort of feature we would see in the summer, where pressure is quite high, but still a lot of energy and vorticity in the atmosphere. So today we've actually seen quite a lot of heavy rain in the south, these sort of heavy showers, bands moving up from the south, and it's been quite gloomy and cloudy as well, as this high pressure has trapped a lot of cloud, mist and fog underneath it. As I said, there's two types of high pressure you can get. You can get the nice, clear, beautiful high pressure that we've had over the last few days, which has now transitioned to this sort of high pressure, where it's much more miserable and gloomy. But with this area of vorticity, we've actually seen quite a lot of heavy rain, almost as if we were under lower pressure. But it's very much sort of a July-August feature that you'd normally see associated with heavy thunderstorms. But given it's only March now, it was just a few heavy showers. Beyond that, you can see those northerly or northeasterly winds. You can see that high pressure doesn't last long at all around Greenland. We do start to pull in a northeasterly airflow. There could be a few wintry showers around, especially in the east coast. There's a few wintry showers in Scotland right now over the mountains. Again, probably won't amount to anything, but again, for those snow lovers out there, you could be seeing a few flakes or sort of graupel, hail, sleet coming out of the sky, especially further east. Doesn't look like it's going to be a major shower activity, but I can't rule out a few flurries here or there. Beyond that, the high pressure does sink southwards into quite cold air, and if you look at the upper air temperatures, you can see that sort of northeasterly cold air. It's going to go really biting cold in Scandinavia, parts of northeastern Europe as well, getting into parts of Germany as well. Pretty cold there. Probably will be driving in a lot of snow with that as well, under that area of low pressure. But we're just under the higher pressure, so for those out there who enjoy drier, but don't mind a crisp, cold, frosty morning, it's perfect weather for you. Going to be reasonably enjoyable, nice, clear sky days. Hopefully, as long as we don't get some stubborn cloud. Again, it's very difficult to predict how the fog and the cloud builds. Again, it's very difficult to see how it builds. A lot of the weather models, for example, and apps forecasting yesterday highs of around 12-13 degrees with sunshine. But the fog never really lifted until late in the afternoon, so I only got around to 7 or 8 degrees where I am. So again, it's very difficult to forecast that, but hopefully the fog will burn back, and we will see fog and the low cloud will burn back, and we'll see some nice sunshine. Beyond that, high pressure does stay around before Atlantic does power up again. It's not going completely low pressure dominated. There's still reasonable high pressure in the south, but it's going to going quite windy and westerly, and there'll probably be some heavy rain with that. You can see the purple's really going towards Scandinavia, so winter is going to be really biting there. Still not brutally cold in the upper airs, but with a lot of low pressure, thick ice bars could be driving in some heavy snow showers into Scandinavia. For the UK, we could be seeing some snow in the north. You can see the jet stream is displaced further southwards, and we're seeing the tropospheric polar vortex get displaced towards Scandinavia and northern Europe, which means even though it's very low pressure dominated, it is a westerly sort of polar maritime air mass. It could be cold enough for some snow in Scotland and over higher ground. Again, it's very difficult to get snow to lower ground in the best of times from a polar maritime air mass. And with these driving easterly winds, maybe overnight you could see some snow, but again, mainly over higher ground, and could be some decent snowfall there over the Scottish mountains. Lowland areas most likely will only be maybe highs of 5-6 degrees, quite cold, chilly. Where we do see breaks in the rain, some clear skies, we could be seeing frosts again, and it could be quite chilly. If we move back to the pressure patterns, you can see we maintain a westerly flow. We do see a little bout of northerly winds, but generally it still looks like a lot of low pressure around. But the Azores High tries to build in towards the end of the run, and it actually does it successfully. And we do see quite warm temperatures potentially wafting up from the south, and we could be seeing some very spring-like temperatures. If we run that back, and we'll go back to the upper airs, you can see, polar maritime air mass could be getting a brief injection of very cold air from the north again. Could give maybe a day or two of very cold conditions, highs of maybe only 2, 3, 4 degrees, cold overnights, and maybe some snow showers around again. It's very difficult to say at this stage, given how far out it is, as it is, will be very marginal because it is getting to the middle of March now. It'll just be one to watch, really, the potential for some colder air coming in from the north. Beyond that, you see the high pressure built in. Initially, it's not building into terribly warm air or mild air, so overnight frost again, probably low cloud fog. But as we head to the end of the run, you can see it starts to pull up a southerly wind, and we start to see some very warm air come up. And this would mirror sort of conditions we've been seeing over the last week or so. Last week when we saw highs getting up to maybe 15, 16 degrees. Very warm indeed. We could be seeing that with this GFS run. But again, it's towards the end, so it's very difficult to say. Now we'll have a look at the GM run. Again, it's got a very similar pattern to the GFS. And as we run through it, you can see we pull in that easterly wind, reasonably cold air mass built into many eastern areas, and doesn't get too far west, so again, could still be overnight frost there, but it's probably not too cold with that. Beyond that, into the longer term, you see we do generally have lower pressure near us, and we do start to pull in these cold polar maritime air masses off the Atlantic. Again, a bit milder in the south, and you can see not as much cold air towards Scandinavia. So GM is going a lot milder with that, and very low pressure dominated. We'll probably form sort of a zonal sine wave where we see milder and colder sectors, a typical sort of autumnal or autumnal pattern that we'll be seeing with that. If we now run onto the ECMWF, you can see high pressure to our north, pulling in cool or even cold easterly winds. And if you have a look at that, quite cold air, it does get in most of the country. You can see by the temperature deviation, around 4 or 6 degrees below average, and quite cold towards northeastern Europe and Scandinavia as well. And as we move through, you can see high pressure does sort of fall away, and then we do go very westerly and potentially even stormy with that. But it does look like in the longer term, however, it could go, even though low pressure dominated, it could go quite mild. Again, the cold air is never too far away. You can see a bitterly cold air mass is over in Scandinavia. Very interesting seeing that. And there's a bit of a Scandinavian high with that, pushing that down. But very, very interesting to see what the ECMWF does with that. Again, it's not supported, but just another interesting look, potential for easterly winds if we move this on another day or two. So yeah, generally, it does look like higher pressure is going to be met around for the next few days, maybe 3, 4, 5 days. Reasonably cold initially, before it does turn milder, but then the westerlies come back in with rain and wind. If we have a look at the GFS upper airs and precipitation, you can see generally we are below average, not brutally cold, we're getting down to -5, so cold enough potentially for some snow showers, especially further northwards and over higher ground. And then we generally remain below average with higher pressure built in. You can see by this dry patch, and we can see where the vorticity is at the moment with this precipitation. And then we see a big rise in temperatures, and that's a warm front coming in off the Atlantic, bringing in southwesterly winds with a lot of rain, and that's the low pressure starting to move back in. Then it just drops cooler again as that colder polar maritime air mass comes in and generally remains around or slightly below average, but a lot of precipitation, so there's going to be wind and rain around as well. There are a few ensemble members going very warm. Again, it's maybe 10 degrees, but again, GFS operational run, which went very dry and potentially warm towards the end of the run, does look like an outlier. But again, there are other outliers getting down to -10, which would allow snowfall potentially to even lowland areas if we got down to that cold. If we have a look at the 2 meter dew point, You can see we're going into quite a cold air mass, and you can see that that's why we're going to see frost. Anything out of the sky is likely to have some wintriness to it, especially overnight. But again, with the high pressure, it's unlikely too much will be falling out of the sky. But again, as I said, with the potential of some cooler cooler with a few snow showers coming in with that cold east or northeasterly wind off the North Sea, we could be seeing some snow with that. Beyond that, dew points rise up a lot, and then they remain around a degree or so above freezing. Again, a couple of thunderstorms are going colder than that. That's the polar maritime air mass. Again, very difficult to get that dew point down, as with the polar maritime air mass, it's normally the dew point that is struggling to get below freezing as it picks up moisture across the warm Atlantic. It's normally the dew point that lets us down and not see snow. So it'll be interesting to see what happens with that if we do see that polar maritime air mass sort of come off. 2 meter temperatures, you can see there's a bit of a outlier there with the GFS ensembles. They've missed out a run, I think. A bit of a computer glitch, but generally highs around 5-6 degrees, lows around freezing or maybe a little bit lower. In the longer term, it generally averages around 9, 10, 11 degrees for the highs, and lows getting around 3, 4, 5 degrees. So nothing too exceptional. Again, there are warmer and colder outliers. It's just really too difficult to say at the moment what's going to happen in the longer term. We've got a rough idea on the pattern, but exact details, it's very much too difficult to pin down at the moment. What I can say is it's not looking like in the longer term we'll be seeing anything exceptionally cold, nor will be seeing anything very spring-like and warm. Generally just in the middle, around average, with periods of rain, periods of dryness, and even some cold and some frostiness here or there. So quite a mix for all weather types. So anyway, thanks for watching, hope you enjoyed, subscribe new, and I'll see you again for another video soon.